All right. Well, we're back for another show. Today, I've got JT. He is the president of the Houston SaberCats Rugby team. And it's going to be fun to kind of get to know his background and also what the SaberCats got going on, because that rugby league is blowing up right now. I mean, there's some great movement there. So welcome to the show, JT. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
JT, let's start, kind of walk us through your experience. I know you started out in minor league baseball on the West Coast, but kind of walk us through your career so far.
Yeah, so in college, I knew that, hey, I would love to work in sports, right? I think we all did, even before college. As a young kid, it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I want to be a baseball player, and then unfortunately curveballs happened, and I was 5'6" in high school, and that told me quickly that, hey, baseball is not going to be there for you in terms of playing. But I got really lucky. I was working for a PR firm in college, and the owner of the PR firm said, hey, I know that this isn't your passion, that you do a great job for me and I appreciate it, but I know that you want to work in sports. And so there's the baseball winter meetings in December. This was in 2008. And they're just in Las Vegas. I was in California. He's like, hey, it's a couple $100 to participate. I will pay for that. I will give you a job offer for a full-time job, because I was just part-time there at the time. So that, not knowing how sports worked at the time yet, hey, here's a job offer and it's for $40,000. That way, if anyone offers you a job at the job fair out there, you can say, well, I've got this to compete against it, right? And so I went to Las Vegas and sat there at the minor league baseball job fair. I got one interview in the 3 days that we were there. It was with the Lake Elsinore Storm, and that happened to be 60 miles from my house.
Nice.
And I got the job, and it was a ticket office internship. But the great thing about it was, man, the staff and the management we had with the Storm at that time, it was kind of, hey, you're going to take this internship and you're going to do with it what you want, right? So you're in the ticket office. These are your core jobs you have to get done. But anything on top of that you want to learn, that you want to do, you want to help out with, just ask and get involved, and you can do it. And so I did that for a year, making $500 a month. In an internship that's probably not legal anymore.
Damn, those days. That's not fair. It's not fair.
Yeah, I got a room in a house that the team owned, lived with the other interns from across the country, and got paid $500 a month plus commission, and loved every minute of it. We were at the ballpark until 11 o'clock at night, even on non-game days, just learning, getting stuff done. And so from there, I got a full-time job with the Storm in the ticket office, ticket operations, ticket sales. Again, was still some of this stuff that I had learned from my internship year. So I was helping out with the game day programs, the, promotional schedule, all this stuff. Ended up as an assistant GM there. And then my boss, Chris Jones, who's now in Lynchburg, Virginia, he left the Storm to come to Houston and run the Sugarland Skeeters. And we had kind of talked about me coming with him, but I wasn't sure yet if I wanted to stay in Elsinore or move, to a place I had never been. And about a week after he left, I sent him a text and I said, hey, I'm coming. We'll figure out, how much you pay me. We'll figure all that out when I get there, really. We figured it out before I got there, but I was good with, I trust this guy. He sees in me, obviously, a future, and he was the one that kind of had helped me, amongst others, but kind of get to where I had gotten to at that point. So I said, hey, let's do it.
When you were with the Storm, I know you were assistant GM, were you still involved in sales? Was it more on the ticket side or partnerships, or, kind of what was your, all-encompassing, role there?
Yeah. So my last season there, I was one of the assistant GMs.
Okay.
And so I did oversee group sales, the ticket office, and our marketing and PR.
Okay.
But minor league baseball, we all
You're doing
help with
everything.
whatever
Yeah.
we can. So, I was in the sixth inning of the games. Baskin Robbins was the sponsor, and there's a video on YouTube of it. I was Scoop, the mascot, and if we scored in the sixth inning, everyone got a free ice cream cone from Baskin Robbins. And so in the middle of the sixth, I would run out on the field in this inflatable costume that's like a ice cream cup. And I would dance around, and I would do a flip. That wasn't even me really doing a flip. I would just flip the costume over, and people loved it. And I did that every year I was there, even when I was assistant GM. And so, it was all encompassing for sure.
So we need to make sure all these young people out there understand, look, the assistant GM was even in the mascot. So let's make sure that it's not above anybody. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I tried to get out of it. I had started doing that as an intern one day. Alan Benavidez was our assistant GM at the time. And he said, "Hey, I need you to do this for me tonight. Get in this costume, do it tonight." And 5 years later, I went to Jones, and I was like, "Hey man, I'm the assistant GM. Do I really need to still be doing this?" He said, "Yep." He goes, "Because it's not, no one's better than a job here. We all have to do everything. And also your clients, your season ticket holders, the partners that you brought on, they love the fact that they know it's you in there." Right.
Yeah.
So it was cool. I'm glad I did that. And it's a story that I can use with interns and staff, especially the staff that comes from interns and then goes into a full-time role. Like, hey, there's no such thing as an intern job, right? We all do everything.
Right. Yeah. We're all interns at the end of the day.
Yes, we are.
So how was it down in Sugar Land? I know they've got a great looking stadium there. I mean, that's, right outside of Houston, right?
Yeah, it was great. We went from Lake Elsinore, where we were the big show in Lake Elsinore, right? Mm-hmm. But Lake Elsinore is in the middle of LA, San Diego, Orange County. So if you're not in Lake Elsinore or one of the surrounding cities, we're really nothing to you, right? We're just a minor league baseball team. And there's nothing wrong with that. We embraced that. We said, this is who we are. And then coming to Sugar Land, it was because of the stadium they had just built. It was high-level independent baseball. Roger Clemens had just pitched for the team when I got there. My first full season, we signed Tracy McGrady to come pitch for us. Obviously, a Hall of Fame basketball player.
Did he actually come out then?
Yeah, no? So he was a starting pitcher for us.
No way.
For half the season. Technically an all-star. Because in the Atlantic League that year, we were hosting the game, and we were the only team outside of the Northeast. And so we said, hey, instead of doing a true all-star game, let's do Texas against the country.
Yeah.
So
did he play in college or something, or a high school?
No, he played in high school.
Was he close to being?
T-Mac learned that you can't just pick it up, right?
Yeah.
His family moved, I think his freshman year of high school, and I'm not exactly sure the details anymore, but there was not a baseball team at the school he switched to. And so he said, hey, I'll play basketball full time. And obviously it worked for him.
Yeah, worked out.
But that love of baseball never left. And so he said, he was living in Sugar Land, and he said, I want to give this a go. And, he had stuff. You could tell he hadn't pitched in a while. Started in the All-Star game, struck out the third batter he faced. That was the end of the inning, and retired right after that. Said, let's leave this to the professionals. I'll just go back to, being an NBA commentator, and now he's great at that,
Right.
But it was cool. We got to try a lot of things there because we were independent baseball, that things that we wanted to do in Lake Elsinore. We invited Charlie Sheen to play for us in Lake Elsinore, knowing that can't happen. We don't even run the roster.
Right.
But in Sugar Land, you could do those types of things. Yeah.
No, that's cool. And when you were there, kind of, were you in the same kind of roles, tickets and marketing, or any other aspects that you had to oversee?
Yeah, so there, I was the only assistant GM, and Chris Jones was the GM, and he was always, in my mind, like looking one step forward for me, right? And so he said, "Hey, you can run as much of this day-to-day operations as you want. Like, I'm there, obviously, I'm going to be the head point, and doing all of it and kind of leading, but the more you want to learn, the more you can, and I have that faith in you." So really, I oversaw and was involved in almost every aspect of the business at that point. And towards the end, when he left to go to Lynchburg, um, I took over the budget, really all operational day to day, before I ended up leaving to go to the Texas Airhogs.
And was the Airhogs in the same league, or were they in a different league?
A different league. It was the American Association.
Okay.
And that situation was Donnie Nelson was just buying the team, that team and the Cleburne Railroaders in the American Association. Bob Zalotnik, who was the owner of Sugarland at the time, still is the owner of Sugarland, had talked to Donnie about maybe getting involved in that team and buying it together. And they were looking for a GM. And Bob said to me, "Hey, look, I don't know if I'm going to get involved, but Donnie is asking for qualified candidates. It's the next logical step for you to be a GM in title, and kind of oversee it by yourself. So would you want me to introduce you to Donnie?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, at least it's worth a call, right?" And
Right.
I knew the name Donnie Nelson. I never met him before that, but uh, you always take calls, especially when it's someone that's heavily involved in sports. It can never hurt.
Yep.
And it was a great step for me at 30 years old to be the GM of a team and to really be the sole, decision maker. And so I jumped at it and, was there for 3 years.
What has been kind of some of the top, crazy promotions that you've done throughout your career? And I know that there's been some, because I remember seeing, the Air Hogs with some crazy promotions and the Skeeters. So anything that really sticks out?
Yeah, the one that sticks out is actually back to the Lake Elsinore days, and that was Charlie Cinco de Mayo. And so, obviously, on Cinco de Mayo, that was the year that Charlie Sheen went crazy, right? And it was a Thirsty Thursday game, so we would have normally had, call it 2,000, 2,500 fans in attendance, but we made the whole game about Charlie Sheen, and the first 500 fans got a Charlie Sheen bobblehead where he was dressed up for Cinco de Mayo. And then the next 500 fans got the Wild Thing glasses, fans dressed up. We had tiger blood deals. We had, really the whole, we really just dove into it. And we wrote a press release that was picked up nationwide by sports syndicates and by just normal news, because I think of, we always push the edge on those press releases. I wrote that with Sean McCall, who was our radio broadcaster at the time, and he's great with words and kind of the double entendres and innuendos. And so we got a lot of press. We ended up selling out that game. And probably the coolest moment of that game, there was two of them, was we had said that we had invited Charlie Sheen. And so right before the game, we said, "Hey, now time for our special guest of the evening." And a limo pulls out from left field and onto the warning track and around, and all the media is there. We never got media. It was Lake Elsinore, California.
Right.
But all the media was there, and you see the flash bulbs going off on their cameras, and out in the limo pops Thunder, our mascot. And it was great just to see like the kind of the disappointment on their face, but at the same time, like a laugh.
Right.
But then in the ninth inning, we got a fog machine, and we played the clip from Major League.
Yeah.
And one of our interns, Alex Croto, actually cut his hair like Wild Thing, ran out from the center field gate through the fog, and he had pitched in college. So he came out in his 99 jersey and threw some warm-up pitches, and then got into an argument with the umpire because he was wearing the wrong jersey. He was wearing the white jersey, and the team was wearing red that night, and got thrown out, got ejected. And so that was just a fun, like, we just had fun there. And I tell people that it was like there was no adults in the room. Obviously, we had adults, right? Like, we had bosses that were keeping us in line, but at the same time, we never felt those pressures that we were being kept in line because of the way they did it. And so we were able to do those fun promos and really push the envelope. So that's probably the best one that I've been a part of.
And it's kind of unique with baseball and the promotions. I mean, teams really push, the envelope every year. And, I think a lot of other leagues and teams out there probably are a little bit too afraid to push that. But I mean, I always see it. I always look for baseball for good ideas that I can bring over to soccer or arena football, whatever I'm involved in at the time. So it's always been fun. So you were with the Air Hogs GM, so kind of running everything, doing everything over there for a few years, right?
Yeah, so I was the GM the first year, and then really it just a title change, became the president. And the cool thing we did there was actually made a deal with the Chinese national team, where most of our roster was Chinese nationals trying to get ready for the Olympics. And they wanted the American experience. They wanted to learn baseball from the best. They were tired of being really far behind, obviously their rivals in Asia. And so it was a cool cultural experience for us for the 2 years that we did that.
So was that the entire team, or and how did that even come about? Was that like, did they reach out to you? Did you guys, get word of that and make the point of contact? How does that even happen?
Yeah, so it was most of the team. They still wanted, and we pushed for, to have some Americans on the team, knowing that even though this is a national team, they're very far behind in terms of their talent level. So honestly, our ownership group, led by Donnie Nelson, they just had some relationships from Donnie being in the NBA and bringing over the first Chinese basketball player to play in the NBA years ago. And he's great at relationships. And so when they were looking at it, they called him, and I was told, hey, we're thinking about this. And I said, okay, yeah, that's never going to happen. And then all of a sudden it happened.
Wow. That had to be very interesting. But I mean,
Yeah.
I do remember seeing that. How did the team fare in the league?
Gosh, we didn't play well. The team got better for sure across the 2 years.
Selling the experience.
Yeah. And to your point on minor league baseball, always kind of being the leaders in that creativity and pushing the envelope. It's because we have to, right? Like when you don't know how you're going to do on the field, and that year we knew we were going to struggle, right? And so you have to kind of bring the focus from off the field to in the stands and what you're doing for the fans.
Yeah. So how did you go from there to your current role?
I mean, I think my kind of the pattern with me is somebody connects me with somebody, and either I'm too dumb to say no, or I'm just looking for for another experience. But the SaberCats, before the stadium was built, before we built Aviva Stadium, they were playing at Constellation Field, which is where the Skeeters play. And so I was not with the Skeeters when they were playing there, but obviously relationships are cemented, and the SaberCats were looking for a president to lead the team. They had been run by the owners up to that point. And a couple of my friends with the Skeeters said, look, we don't know if JT's looking for a job. We think he's happy where he is, but you never know. So, we think he'd be good for the job if he was willing. and they called, and it just seemed like a great way to kind of challenge myself, do something different. My wife is from Houston, so, got her back here. But also it was, for me, kind of selfishly, to prove that what we do at the minor league baseball level can translate to a major league level. It's not one of the core four major sports, but it's still Major League Rugby, where, the play on the field will matter a lot more. But, what can I do from my minor league days to help get fans there as we really just introduce this game to people?
What's your background with rugby, like, prior to this? I mean, anything?
There was not a background. No.
Okay.
The first time I had seen rugby was I got a call from the ownership group here on like a Thursday, and I was going to spring training to Arizona to meet up with my dad and my brother, just to watch some Angels baseball at spring training. And we were in the hotel that weekend, and rugby was on TV. And my dad's like, "Hey, let's watch 10 minutes of it, because you don't know, you might be doing this for a living." And so that was my first experience with it.
Is there any, significant differences on the business side, between, where you're at now compared to the baseball?
I don't think so. Obviously, we are more of a nationwide league. We've got TV deals, so it's a bigger system. But at the end of the day, like I do, we're selling the experience, and we're selling individual memories for people. And so sponsorship is sponsorship. Someone told me early on working that, this was about baseball, but this game and this business is the same as you go. The stadiums just get bigger. Yeah. And so I took that and said, even though it's a different game, the business is still pretty much the same. There's some more accents involved, but it's the same business.
What kind of attendance have you guys had, and where do you think? I mean, I think rugby it's kind of one of those. It's kind of like MLS when it started. It's taken a while to get to where it's at, and I think with the technology and everything now, I think it's going to really help, fast track rugby more nationally and more mainstream. But how are you guys doing now? And then what are you what are the goals and progressions that you're expecting?
Yeah. So we've been averaging about 2,000 fans a game. We've played 3 seasons, and for the SaberCats specifically, the first season was all at a baseball field / high school football field. Then we were baseball, high school football into our rugby specific Aviva Stadium. And then this year, obviously cut short 5 games in. So we haven't really been able to build that momentum naturally the way we'd want to yet. But, our stadium holds 4,000 for right now. There are plans that we can expand it as we get more people. And we play 8 home games a year. So there's no reason we can't get to that number. There's no reason we can't add seats as we go. And then really, as the league expands, which it has a lot, kind of build that national foothold and become where people are coming to the games, but also people that can't come to the games are watching it on TV.
Yeah, no, and I think with that extra exposure on TV and digital, it's going to really, help out. I mean, how old's the league now? Is it about 3 to 5 years old?
Yeah, so there's been 3 seasons going into our 4th.
Yeah, and I mean, just the recent hires too within the league office. And, I had somebody else on the show a few weeks ago with Mastro Sports and Marketing. I know they're working with the league. So it's definitely looks like an exciting time to be a part of it.
Yeah, we're in growth mode for sure.
With your role now, are you still kind of, is it still kind of have that minor league feel where you got to have your hands in a lot of things, or are you more kind of just putting the pieces in place and letting things flow?
Probably somewhere in between. I don't think I'll ever be able to just put pieces in place and let things flow. I also think that's why the ownership group hired not me specifically, but somebody that comes from minor league baseball, seeing how that can translate. But we have a staff of 8 full-time people on the business side, everything from accounting, marketing, ticket sales, sponsorship, stadium operations. But I do find myself involved, in a lot of the weeds, dealing with stuff with them, helping get things done, because it's just how I was kind of brought up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you're in the mascot, so I mean, you're used to doing everything. I mean, that's kind of how I am as well. It would be tough to just, kind of be that hands off, style. So is that kind of, your leadership style? Like, how would you describe your style of leading?
Yeah, I'm definitely heavily involved. Also, I think even though I've now been in Texas for 8 years, you can never take out the kind of Southern Californian in me, which is just, hey, we're laid back. We don't let anything
flip
bother
flops
you
right
too
now?
much. No, because we're supposed to get the hurricane soon. But you can never take that out, right?
Right.
Call it whatever you want, but it's in me, and so I just don't let the little things bother me very much, and I try to kind of impress that upon the staff of, hey, let's kind of deal with things on reality's terms, right? Like, this isn't the biggest issue we've ever faced. If someone's complaining about something, it doesn't mean that they're wrong, but it doesn't mean that it's a huge problem, right? And one of my favorite things is talking to ticket office people, and being that I came from the ticket office, I know I did it when I was in it. Hey, we're getting a lot of complaints about XYZ, right? And I just kind of stop them right there and I say, how many?
2.
How many? Right. It's always less than 5.
Yeah. It's like,
Again,
so many. My phone's blowing up. Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're wrong, but like, let's just deal with reality on reality's terms. And so I try to kind of to keep that in it. And then I also kind of mindset wise for myself, it's like, when there's good things happening, it's always we. And when there's bad things happening, it's always I, right? Like, if I'm talking to ownership and there's positive news to share, it's, hey, we are doing this, we are doing that, because that's what we are, right? We're all doing it together. If there's bad news I have to share, it's on me, right? It doesn't matter if it was really another, an employee that made a mistake or whatever, because I can deal with that. But talking up to ownership, it's like, hey, here's what I'm going to do to make this happen, or here's how I kind of allowed that mistake to happen, and make sure that it won't happen again. So I just try to keep that in my mind. Terrible advice for job interviews or for resumes. We grew sales by X amount %, but when you're in it, I think I just try to keep that mindset.
Yeah, it's tough. I kind of tend to speak that way too a lot. And I noticed myself in an interview, and they were like, who's we? And it's like,
right.
Like, I look at the success of our team, and, anything that I do, like even small businesses that I own, it's always we. I mean, because it's myself and my wife, or, the front office team. But, I think it's important in leadership to, be positive and inclusive of, everyone, because to be a good leader, you need a good team. You need a good team for overall success. But like I noticed you said earlier too, like you had kind of like a mentor or someone help you kind of along the way and trying to help you develop your career. And I saw maybe like a month ago that you joined the Clubhouse Mentorship Program. And what exactly is that, and what drew you to that?
Yeah. Also, if Chris Jones listens to this, his ego is gonna be way too big if I say that he was my mentor.
Chris is the man. Come on.
but yeah, I mean, it's true, and so the Clubhouse Mentorship, it's a program that I found actually through just some webinars they were doing right when the pandemic hit, about how to sell during this time, how to do that. So I checked out their website, and there was this program, and it's basically just a system set in place where people that are young into the business, or you don't have to be young into the business, can sign up for a monthly membership. And with that, they get, access to a bunch of articles. They get some archived webinars that might have been free for everybody else, but they can go back and watch these again. But mentorship program. So all the mentors are on the website, and kind of their background is there. And so people can request an hour of someone's time and just ask, whatever questions they want, to kind of to learn to what can my next steps be. And, we all volunteer to do this. And I think if I had that when I was starting, I had great mentors for sure already,
Right.
But people from outside of my world, I would have been able to ask questions. I would have been able to learn different ways about things.
Yeah, and that's what I think is really cool about our business in general, especially, and I've really noticed it since COVID. Like people have been, more open, more willing to help each other. And I think it's great. And, I try to do the same thing. I mean, I get a lot of requests on LinkedIn to get on calls and stuff. And I try to get on as many as I can. And, it's good to see, specifically the younger generation of, who is hungry to learn, who's willing to reach out, because, man, it's a lot different. I've been in it since 2001. So from, that my first 10 years to the last 10 years has been quite a bit different, from people getting into it, from interns all the way up to, kids right out of school. So I think that program's great. I think it's great that you're, kind of taking some initiative as well to kind of give back. I mean, I think that's really what we need to do as leaders, is make sure that we are there and we bring this next group of people up, the right way. So,
yeah. Well, and I was talking to a group of interns with the Air Hogs last week. And they're the GM with the Air Hogs now, asked me, hey, I've got interns that obviously we can't do much work. Do you mind talking to them? And I said, one of the things, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody, even if their title is president or GM, because it's the only industry I've ever really worked in. But if there's something I know about executives in the sports industry, it's two things. It's, we love helping, people get to where they want to get to. Part of that is just to help, but I think part of it is selfishly to say, like, hey, I helped that kid win, right? But also we love talking about ourselves. And so if you want advice or something, and, someone that's kind of more experienced in the industry can spend 30 minutes just telling you about their story and how they got to where they are, most people are willing to do that.
Yeah. No, and it's key. So I tell everyone the same thing. Just build that network, connect with people on LinkedIn, follow up, try to set up, 10, 15-minute calls. But target people that, are in the area that you want to work. If you want to work in ops, look for ops people. I mean, that's the great thing about LinkedIn, is it's pretty easy to find people, and pretty much everybody in the industry is on LinkedIn in some form or fashion. So if you could go back though now and tell your, rookie season self some advice, what would you do career wise? What would you have told yourself?
Yeah. I was talking to someone about this yesterday, not in that context, but I think the thing I would tell myself is that don't let the little things get to you in terms of other staff members, right? And the way I was using it yesterday was, sports, I think, is getting a lot better at adjusting for people's kind of age and stage, right? Like where they're at in their life, and we're getting that work-life balance better for people, however that works out for the individuals. But I remember when I was just starting out, it would get to me when, hey, why do I have to work this camp out? But the people with kids, they're not staying overnight, right? And they're not the ones, coming in at 7 a.m. to do this. And I always let that kind of get to me. And looking back, it's like, now that I have 2 kids myself, yeah, I don't want to stay overnight at a camp out if I don't have to, right? Like the younger and not necessarily younger, but depending on kind of where you're at in your life and what you have going on outside of work, if you are more able to do that kind of stuff, then step up and do it. It's only going to make you better anyway and give you those experiences. But there's no point in letting it bother you that this person doesn't have to do that, because, hey, that person, has other things going on. It's not like they're going on vacation.
Well, and the other thing too, I had to remind somebody of, a little while back, is like, you don't know what this person does as far as, they're in different departments. You don't know exactly everything they're responsible for, what they do, when they're here, when they're there. And I always just tell people, you got to worry about yourself.
Yep.
And are you putting yourself in the best position to be successful? If you want to sit and bitch and moan about it and cry, then, you're going to be negative. You're not going to end up, advancing the way that you'd like. You gotta be positive and just, like I say, you just got to put the work in. I mean, even I'm sure you as a president, as me as a team president, I mean, I don't think I've worked like a 40-hour week since I was like 18 or 19. It's whatever it takes to get the job done. And, yeah, you might be out golfing tomorrow, but nobody knows that you were at the office till 9 or 10 o'clock the night before. And that's why I always tell people, you don't know anyone else's situation. So just worry about yourself, control your controllables. And, if you put the best effort in, then that's all you can really ask of yourself. So it can be a challenge sometimes, especially with the sense of entitlement that you see a lot more now. And it's like, hey, come on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's
calm
tough.
down. Calm down.
It's easy to say, right? But it's pretty hard to do, to not let others bother you. And then the other part of that is, don't be afraid to be labeled as, the boss's favorite, and I was that for sure in Lake Elsinore. In my mind, it was because I had always, I always did what needed to be done. And Chris knew he could come to me and say, hey, I've got this project. Can you get it done? And he knew I would get it done. Right.
Yeah.
But from the outside, it's like, oh, they're just buddies,
Right.
The truth is, like, we barely hung out outside of work at that time.
Yeah.
It was just, we had a great relationship.
You knew he could count on you.
I let that get to me. Yeah. But
I mean, that's the bottom line.
When you hear your coworker saying, oh, you're just his buddy, like,
right.
As much as you want to fight that, like, don't be afraid to just be labeled that guy. Because the truth is, if you're going to be somebody's buddy,
yeah,
the boss ain't a bad guy to be the buddy of,
Well, and look at, and it's like a common theme with most of my guests. I mean, they progressed in their career a lot because of relationships that they've built. And, if you were a slacker out there in California, then why would Chris want to even bring you anywhere? And,
right.
And so that it goes back to, these relationships, you never know. It's funny how I've seen people throughout my career, and then it's like, we might have been on the same level, then maybe they were, up higher, or I'm, and then job postings, and you just never know how crazy of a small world the sports world is.
Yeah.
And that's why I just say you got to build those relationships, be genuine. And, if you put the effort in, I'm not expecting someone to know everything. I'm expecting you to continue to try to improve though. And if you see that and you see that work ethic, you're going to bring people along.
Yeah,
In your
definitely.
career, have you been in a position yet where you've been, pulling people that, maybe you were mentoring along, or help them maybe progress into other career paths?
Yeah, so I'd like to think, and he'd probably say the same. The GM of the Skeeters currently, Tyler Stam, he was a sales guy when we got there to Sugarland. This isn't betraying his confidence because he knows this. He wasn't always the easiest to work with at the time, right? And there were times where it was like, is this guy going to be able to make it in this industry? But I and Chris also thought, hey, he could be something really good. And so just kind of worked with him. And even when I left the Skeeters, we've stayed in contact. Now that he's had that job a little longer, the calls for advice are, fewer and farther between, which is the way it should be, right?
Yeah.
He's now feeling more confident. And then also the GM with the Air Hogs. He was there when I was there started as an intern with me. And when I left, it was, hey, I think this kid, he's ready for it. I told him at the time, you're never really ready,
Right.
but
He's got to get thrown into it. That's the only way.
But you're ready enough.
Right.
And so, because I wasn't ready for any job I've ever had.
Yeah.
You're ready enough, and then you figure out what you didn't know as you go. But, I'd like to think those two guys, I've played a small part in helping get them to where they are.
That's always cool to kind of see their progression. Like I always go back to an intern who then you hire, and then, down the road, they're moving on to bigger and better things. It's very rewarding from my standpoint. And, I was with the Fredericksburg Nationals baseball team for about 8 months. And that was a big thing there, as I was really trying to focus on helping, the sales team specifically just develop and, get those next opportunities. And man, they've made such huge progress over that short period of time. So it's exciting to see. I'm excited to kind of watch those guys and gals, over the next few years and see where they end up. But it's definitely enjoyable. Going back to rugby, where you guys are at now. So what's it kind of look like for your season? Is that this year is totally canceled, midway through, and just focused on next season right now?
Yeah. So we started in early February, so March 11th, Rudy Gobert test positive. The next morning we put a 30-day postponement into our season. We were 5 games in at the time. And then maybe a week after that 30-day postponement, we figured, look, we got a lot of international guys. We need to send everybody home, so that, not knowing how this is going to play out, but we don't want anybody stuck here. These guys, they need to get home, right? And so the league made that tough decision that ultimately was the right one pretty quickly. And when that happened and we told the staff about it, obviously the first question was, hey, what does this mean for us? And I said, it means we start looking forward to 2021, and we have the longest off season of all time. But, we can do a lot more things that maybe we weren't really ready for. We can kind of push those faster now because we have more off season. So now we're just kind of full speed ahead towards 2021. The schedule should come out soon. But looking to start in February again.
Nice. No, well, I'm kind of excited to kind of watch the growth of the league. I think there was a few expansion teams too this off season, so it'll be interesting to see. But no, I appreciate you joining me. It was good to kind of hear some of those baseball stories and just seeing your progression over the years. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love what you're doing with the free agent series too, and I know one of my former coworkers was on there, so
Okay.
I appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, no, thanks. And if you get to a point where you're starting to look to hire people, definitely check check them out. There's some high quality candidates there. So.
Yeah, Joey Zanaboni was with us.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Good old Joe. He's got some good stories. He was going to be just a short free agent Friday video. And then we just got talking and I was like, all right, this is just going to be a regular episode because he's got some crazy stuff.
I used him as the example of someone that's just unapologetically them, right?
Yeah,
Like,
love it.
you got to be yourself. And Joey's not for everybody.
Either like him or yeah.
He's great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I liked it. Was there somebody else too, or was he the only one that you noticed?
I think he was the only one that I've worked with.
Okay. All right. So, well, definitely when you get ready to hire, there's definitely good ones. And there's some, from the Houston area, from the XFL team. You also have some from San Antonio. What's that, a couple hours away?
Yeah, not too far.
So, but no, thanks again for joining me, and let's keep in touch.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.